Hello, I'm Jim Miller. I'm here with Terrence Moore. Reggie Turner has the night off. The FlipSide starts right now. Welcome to the show. We're pleased to have with us tonight the President and CEO of the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, a longtime guest and friend of the FlipSide, Paul Frey. Paul, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you, Jim and Terrence.
And Paul, you brought with you one of the exciting businesses from the Chamber. Do you want to introduce your guest?
Sure, and it is an exciting business, heavy metal playground. I have with me the owner, Mark Stevanus. He's just celebrated his 5th anniversary. It's an exciting business. He's going to talk about how it started, some of the new initiatives, and some of the fun he has in the dirt that we can all have. So Mark, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. Appreciate it. So Heavy Metal Playground started some time ago. The concept, it was to be an entertainment venue. A very unique business where people come out and play on heavy equipment. We were like possibly the 3rd in the world to ever do anything like this. So being the only one on the East Coast, started some time ago, it picked up quite a bit of momentum. As time went on, we've had a lot of people drive long distances. I mean, we've had people drive from Toronto, 8-hour drive to spend an hour with us. So we draw tourism in to the area. Some people stay, some people drive, 4 or 5 hours around and go back. But either way, we bring people to the area that have never been to the area. And like I said, I mean, being the only place on the East Coast to do something like this and so unique, and it's kind of a bucket list experience for people to do, it really does draw a crowd. So not only we're working on the entertainment side, but we do corporate events. So we've had events with 30, 40 people at a time.
Wow.
Google, Amazon. We've had busloads of people from Baltimore come up and do corporate events. Very unique team building concept. So it really draws quite a bit of attention. And like I said, what makes it so unique is what draws the attention.
It's also done some family reunions over the years.
Birthday parties, Father's Day
Couples,
weekend.
Valentine's Day. My wife and I did some competition, which she'll talk about. We were in separate excavators. And Mark and his team help us drive because we're on a headset, they're on a headset.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of fun, good competition.
So the machines are heated and air conditioned. I mean, that's the main thing. So we can go all year round, and we want our customers to be comfortable. And we talk to everyone through radios. So we put radios inside, and we talk to them, and we just tell them what to do. We say, hey, left joystick, do this, right joystick, and they're moving the arm, the bucket around, teach them how to drive. So within 5-10 minutes, they're operating. Now, it's just, through our commands, but they get used to it, and they dig in the dirt a little bit. We do different activities like picking up tires, tire stacking. We do our own version of a basketball game. We put a basketball in the bucket of the machine, you spin in a circle and drop it into a tire. And then we do obstacle course driving through with the machines. And we do competitions. So we bring out the competitions, Paul said. I mean, you bring a family out to us, we get some family competition, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever that looks like. And we really love the competitive side because they're learning how to operate, but it's kind of like on the job training, hands-on training, and they kind of forget that they're actually just learning how to operate machinery. Now they're dropping basketballs into tires, and they're stacking tires, and they're driving the machines. Something that 15 minutes earlier they've never done before.
Wow.
So I have to ask this. First of all, tell us a little bit, let's back up.
Sure.
Even before the business. Tell us a little bit about your history and your experience, and then tell me what made you come up and say, you know what I think I'll do today? Buy a whole bunch of heavy equipment and invite people to play on it.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've been a business owner, entrepreneur for quite a long time. It started off kind of in the IT field. I in a web design company, we did some social media marketing, different things like that. And I also worked with events in the Frederick area, and some of those were mud runs. And so we actually brought heavy equipment in to build those obstacles. So we dug trenches, dug mud holes, used equipment to put poles into place. And at that time, you're getting in and you're learning how to do this. And we actually had people say, that looks like fun, I'd like to try something like that. Then I saw the concept, there was someone on Shark Tank, and then I wanted to research a little bit and found out there was a gentleman in Las Vegas that started this whole process many, many years ago. He was the first, I think, in the world to do anything like it. Then someone else did it, and so once I saw that actually there was businesses doing this, creating a unique experience, I wanted to do that. I've always wanted to own a business that is way outside the box, and this one is way outside the box. I love things that are so unique that my whole goal was, when I started this years ago, was exactly where we are now, where people would drive long distances to come to our location and do this, and also do community involvement, which again we'll talk about. But that kind of started the whole thing. So I started just kind of researching, found out again we would be the only place on the East Coast. And just at that point, just started looking at equipment and finding land and just making it work. So.
Terrence?
Well, congratulations, 5 years. I think most people understand 5 years is a big mark
Sure is.
for an entrepreneur. Right? You think 12 months, 3 years, 5 years. You hit that mark there, the chances are your success of your business is, the longevity actually goes up once you hit that 5 year mark. So congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. I was around when you kind of introduce
Yeah,
the
I remember.
business. And I know one of the challenges of innovation, of being first, is great, but there's challenges of carving that path for
Yep.
those to come behind you.
Yeah.
And I know, like insurance was one of those items that you
It
had
was.
to really kind of walk through. Tell us about some of those things that, the challenges of being the innovator have brought to you in the state of Maryland.
Yeah, and I always tell my staff this, is that, there's things that we're working on now that are new to the area. And from day one, it was, we made things up as we went along. Because, I always say that, if you want to start a coffee shop or a restaurant or whatever, there's a blueprint for success. But to be possibly the third business to do something like this in the United States, there's no blueprint. You're making this up as you go along, and so you have nothing to go by. So I sat down with friends and we started just kind of planning this thing out. But yeah, we ran into insurance, because when you talk to insurance companies, they never heard of a concept like this. And so they want to say, well, it's dangerous. We don't want to insure this because it's dangerous. And, I heard this over and over and over again, and I finally had to start telling people, this is safer than go-karts. These machines, they go 4 miles per hour. You're not going to tip over. You're in a safe environment. You're not, we're not doing anything. We spread the machines out far enough that they can't hit each other. We even know exactly where to stand as we're talking at what we call outside the danger zone. But I had to have this discussion over and over and over again with companies until finally, found the right company that said, yeah, okay, we get it. We'll take a chance on this. Never have we had an incident or an accident. Never. We've never had to file a claim. Because again, our whole thing was safety. We want our customers to feel completely safe. So we had to go through that. Finding land, because it was the same thing. People were like, well, never heard of something like this, So landowners didn't want to take a chance for people to come out because they deemed it unsafe. What are we getting into or whatever? And so that kind of led to things like that. Finding companies to rent us the equipment. The companies will rent machines and drop them off in your front yard to people that have never used them before, but then they were questioning us like, well, do we want to be involved in this? Because you're bringing people out. Well, we're guiding people through a safe procedure as opposed to you drop it off in someone's front yard. And so it took a lot of explaining. And we work with various companies. Right now we partner with Bobcat. They use a Hagerstown Bobcat. And talking to one of the gentlemen who was originally, when we first came up with the concept many years ago, he told me when we left their location, they all looked at each other and said, man, they're crazy. These people are nuts trying to do something like that, But that was what was going on. But, I still saw something so unique and different, and that's what I wanted to do. So we just kept moving forward. But like I said, I always tell my staff, I said, as we invent new things, which we do all the time, it's kind of like being a pioneer, and the first ones through the door is the ones that get the bloodiest. You have to be ready for what is going to happen, because we didn't know what was going to happen. And luckily it just it picked up momentum as it went along.
Terrence talked about entrepreneurship. This is the vision of an entrepreneur. You don't know what it's going to look like. You're resilient. You're going to figure it out as you go, and you have a passion. So I think that's what Mark's demonstrating, is passion.
And it is passion, and it's a lot of risk taking. I mean, a lot of risk taking, and you have to be ready for that. No matter what the business is, I love people that take a risk when starting a business up. I love that. And I love the ones, as you said, you make it 5 years. I love the ones that make it a year and then 3 years. You see them still around after 5 years. I love that. I have a passion for that. But you have to be ready for sleepless nights. You have to be ready to worry. You have to be ready to take risks and ready to pivot. Who saw COVID come along? No one saw that coming. Right. And right in the middle, as we're bumping along, it hit.
And we're not in Florida. I was talking to Mark today about his work with some of his clients, and Mark and his team are out there in the elements, as were his people. So it's not sunny out there today, but he's still at work.
Oh yeah, it's a day like this. And another thing that we haven't talked about is we actually pivoted some time ago because we also now do certified training, and that became just. As soon as we opened up on day one, people reached out and said, "You guys do any type of training? I'd love to learn how to do this to get a job." Researched it, no one in the area was doing it. Okay, well again, we take on the new risk. Can we launch this curriculum? Can we launch a program? And this program went from like 2 to 3 days a week. Now it's a 4-week program. Wow. We have a 120-hour program where we train and help people get jobs. And, so that was a whole risk, and we're launching more programs, which, is a risk. But as Paul said, our people are out there. We have 4 new students that started this week, and boy, are they got a dose of rain and mud and freezing cold and wind today. And we tell all students, you are in for real life experiences, because 85% of the time, you're outside in it. You're not sitting in a nice warm classroom. We want you out in elements. We want you to learn how to walk through mud and control mud and all that stuff. So we really put them through, that whole process, and we love it though. So
We have a lot more questions for you. We need to take a break right now, so if you'll stick with us.
Sure.
And we hope you will stick with us as well. We'll be back on the flip side after this. Welcome back. We're here again with Paul Frey, President and CEO of the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, and Mark Stevanus from Heavy Metal Playground.
Thank you.
So you talked about the challenges. Talk about the partnerships. Who helped you along the way? Obviously, there was an insurance company that stepped up and said, yes, we'll take on this risk. Mm-hmm. Who else would you like to highlight?
Well, definitely Chamber of Commerce. I mean, Paul, from day one was always a great person to talk to. I can call Paul anytime, 3, 4.
I don't always answer,
3, 4
but
in
he
the
can
morning
call
or
me.
anything like that.
Yeah.
No, but Paul always has, great connection, because to me it is networking, and it is, an outreach. And so with the training program, the Chamber's played a large part. We also have worked very, very close with Horizon Goodwill Industries in Hagerstown. Matter of fact, interesting, during 2020, we were shut down throughout that whole year, because where we were actually at a different location. And the people that owned the land during COVID decided to call it quits, sell the land, and told us, you got to vacate.
You're gone.
Right. And so anyway, COVID hit anyway, so corporate events were gone. Tourism was shut down, it seemed like, no one was doing anything. And training, because it just everything just kind of came to a stop, as everyone knows. But probably around August, Dave Schuster, Brooke Grossman, they all reached out to me and said, we need this training again. Because now we have a large people unemployed, looking for new careers. And they reached out, and I said, well, I don't have location. They said, come to our location on Pennsylvania Avenue. We want to show you. And I went up, and they had this 4 or 5 acre lot just sitting there empty. So they said, use this field. You can use our building, our conference room as classrooms. We want to partner and just make this work. And we launched that, the August of that year to make that happen. And so great partnership through that. They work with, homeless, they work with, our reentry programs. Mm-hmm. We also have worked with veterans groups, homeless veterans, a wide range of people to come in and take class. And so we started our own nonprofit, HMP training. So now we can go get grant money, and we've launched that and received some grant money. So now we try to provide free tuition for everyone that we possibly can. That's our goal. And so now that is starting to come into place. Now working with partnerships like Goodwill and, like I said, gatekeepers, different programs like that. We tell every student that comes there, we don't care what your background is. We don't care what has ever happened. Here's your day one right now. This is a new beginning for you. And if you commit to us, we will commit to you, and we will run you through the program and keep everything free. We buy everyone lunch. So we buy sandwiches, we buy all kinds of stuff so that people, we have a partnership. We're talking about partnerships with Specialty Granules Incorporated. Not sure if you've ever heard of them, SGI. But they came to us, heard about the program, wanted to support it. They asked us questions like, what do we need for students? We realized a lot of students were showing up in tennis shoes, no jackets. So SGI went out and bought a whole equipment locker. So now any student that comes and don't have boots, they now have boots to use. They have jackets to wear, gloves to wear, hats to wear. And SGI comes to every graduation and buys every student boots, pants, and shirt, work clothes to go out into the workforce and get jobs. And so great partnerships like that have stepped up and really come to fruition, and it's helped the program a lot.
How many people you think you've trained since?
Oh my gosh. Probably, I'm going to throw a number out of probably like 150 or so.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we've had classes of 8 to 10 at a time. We've had smaller classes like 1 to 2. Right now we have a class of 4 going through.
And I got to think that there's probably a fair amount of jobs out there.
A lot of jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, November numbers 1.8% unemployment in Maryland, which is great.
Yeah.
But besides that, I can't, you hear about these construction jobs and these types of jobs that are just constantly left unfilled.
There's a lot, and speaking with Jonathan, economic development, he has supported the program, quite a bit, and
With the
he's
county.
even or the county, yeah,
Right.
and he's even talked about companies out there that feel like they're leaving jobs on the table because they don't have the workforce to get those jobs or to apply for jobs. So you have contracts that are being left behind because they don't have the numbers to do it. We teach all of our students that it's wide open. You can work for construction, you can work for the road crews, you can work for pool companies, you can work for landscaping companies. We now have companies like US Lawn, employees to us to train, basic training, skid steers, things like that, to get them into the machine, get them acclimated. And so now we have companies actually reaching out to us they've hired people on, they want us to train and do safety training and things like that. So it is a wide range of people hiring or companies hiring, and that's what we love to teach the students, that don't just get stuck, on construction, or you're gonna build a house, or you're gonna do something like, it's a wide range that you can apply for.
And I know as an entrepreneur right now, and a lot of businesses are struggling with the culture of employees now.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen a huge shift of that post-COVID.
Right.
Are you seeing any of that? Are you seeing people come into training with that eagerness, to willingness
Yes.
to learn, to work? Because what you hear is a lot of people feel like this next generation of employee right now aren't as motivated, don't have the same work ethic, or don't have the same goals in coming into work.
Right.
And you see something completely different.
We see that, and to be honest, we kind of put them through what we'll call kind of an interview process. And we sit down and ask them, why do you want to take the class? What's your intentions taking the class? Because we want people to want to come to class. And what we have learned is a majority of the people that come to class, they want jobs. And they prove it by showing up for 120 hours of training. Our program's 4 weeks long.
Wow.
And so you show up every day for 120 hours in conditions like what we've had today, in snow, sleet, rain, mud, wind. You want to work, And we've had companies reach out to us and ask about these students. So we keep track of everyone. So they do a sign-in process. We keep track of their attendance. We keep track of their grades. We keep track how well they do in the machines. And so we can help them get jobs, but we tell them day one, you got to show up. 90% attendance is what you're going to get. If you don't show, you don't get certified. It's that simple. And so, we're not just handing out certificates to people. But, to answer that question, the people that we get, a majority of them, they want to get jobs. We have people probably 2 weeks into the program, they're already out knocking on doors. They're already putting application in saying, I'm going through a training program right now. Can I get an interview?
And I don't want you to take for granted that a lot of what you're doing is why you're not seeing it. Because onboarding and relationships with employees, people take for granted it's not happening as well.
Right.
It's come in the door, do the job, you're not meeting expectations, leave.
Right.
or it's an entitlement kind of thing, giving everybody something up front and not having them put a little bit of sweat equity in up front. So I believe as passive as you were in explaining that, you hit some major things that employers and business owners should be doing to ensure that the
Absolutely.
retention and the quality of their employees as well. So thank you for
Absolutely.
that, pointing that out.
And the employers that are hiring his folks, that's a good thing for them. That's an extra bonus because you're, to Terrence's point, you're training them to go work for them,
Right.
showing up on time,
Right.
being a
Soft skills.
Yep.
soft skills.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah, we're very strict. I mean, we basically say the class starts at 9 a.m., the door's shut at 9 a.m. That doesn't mean you show up at 9 a.m. and you're going to get coffee and use the bathroom and eat your food and this and that. 9 o'clock, the door's shut. If you miss anything, you miss anything. That's not our problem. We're not here to baby you. We're not here to catch you up constantly. So we do this all a week to 2 weeks before they come into class. They know what they're in for. Then we see who shows up the first day of class, and a majority of the time they show up but they know what they're in for. We talk to them about cell phones. You are not sitting on your cell phone. You're not getting in a machine, being on your cell phone, because companies do not want that. Companies tell you to put your cell phone in a locker, lock it up, because it's unsafe.
Right.
And so we run them through that whole gamut, just like it's a job site. One of our weeks, so we have a 4-week program, one of the weeks we call it Task Week. Task Week is we've taught you everything we're going to teach you in a 3-week process. Now when you show up, it's a job site. And we hand you a blueprint. Go dig this. Go dig this trench, put this pipe in the ground, level the ground. We're going to watch you. And they have to do it. And then day 2, the trench gets harder. So then you dig an L trench and an X trench and a T trench, and they have to know how to fill it in and be safe and work together with communication. So it's also teaching when you go to a job site, you're going to work together most of the time like in a team. You have to communicate and be safe. So you have people on the outside of the machine that has to be safe with the people on the inside of the machine.
Talk about you keep referring to certification. Is that a standard certification? What is the certification?
So it's considered an OSHA compliant. You know, the world we live in now, and it's kind of a tough talk, you do not have to have a certification to get a job running heavy machinery. And I think it's a shame, but nothing we can do about that. But this certification is what we call an OSHA compliant. We actually work with a company called Hard Hat Training. So this isn't Mark's curriculum from Heavy Metal Playground that I sat down and just wrote this workbook out. This is an actual worldwide known curriculum that we use. And so we've used their program, partner with Hard Hat Training. We use their certifications. We're just the training company. We're all certified trainers through Hard Hat Training. So we have done a train-to-trainer program through them.
Now, is there any special licensing required from the state of Maryland? Like if I'm going to drive a big rig, I've got to get a special kind of
Like a
license.
CDL.
Yeah. Do you have to have a special kind of
You
license?
don't.
Okay, that's interesting.
You don't. It's a very interesting world that with heavy equipment, you don't have to have a license. You don't have to have a certification. And, you know, I would like to see that change, but it's not going to. I still think there should be some type of training that takes place for that to happen, because we've had people come to our program that has been in, say, the construction field for 20 years, and after 4 weeks, they told us, we didn't realize how unsafe we were running this equipment.
Wow.
What you taught us has changed our mind. People like U.S. Lawns and a couple of the other companies said the same thing, that we have never done what you told us to do in the safety, and they've went back to their boss and said, we got to make some changes, you know, because what we're learning. And so it goes a long way, but I wish there would be some type of certification needed.
You ever thought about creating your own certification?
I think, to be honest, using a company like Hard Hat Certification goes a long way more than...
I'm just saying, in addition to, you're putting 150 people who've been through your program
Yeah.
and helping employers. If I want to hire somebody, I want you to be the one who trained them,
Yeah,
right? So,
right.
you know, it's just something to stick in resumes, and somebody, you know, it doesn't have to be an accredited certification,
Sure.
but some kind of certification for yourself to say that this is who I was trained by, and their expectations are higher than most.
Right.
So, and just hearing what you say there, I think that's going to be beneficial too.
With that certificate, didn't mean to interrupt, but
No.
with the Hard Hat certification, our name is on it
Okay,
as
great.
the trainer. So it is kind of a partnership with them.
Perfect.
And we tell all the students, when you apply for a job, tell the company to call us. that we can tell the company you went through 120 hours, because we want to tell the company you just didn't get this online. You just didn't do this virtual thing where you got a certification, that you actually were here for 120 hours. And we've had companies call us, and it goes a long way. Once we tell them about the program, they really take a different note with it.
That's amazing. That's great.
Let's turn back to the playground side of things. Tell me, I know part of your target audience is corporate, you mentioned that, but who else do you serve? If I have 4 friends that just want to come, that's...
Yeah, we've had, our minimum age is 8.
8?
8 years old. And I'm going to tell you right now that an 8-year-old will listen better than an adult. If you tell him you can't be in that equipment unless you listen to me, they will listen to you very well, So we did the minimum age at 8. And, we didn't want to go any younger than that, to be honest, because they have a hard time knowing the left from the right.
Yeah.
We have to, we do that. I train my people to point at the hand sometimes, say that hand do this, that hand do this, but a lot of it is left hand do this and right hand do this. And so we've had from 8 to 85 bucket lists. We've had, birthday parties. So yeah, family reunions, if you have a group of people that come out, we can, take a group. We have individuals. Sometimes it's just a single person come out.
What is group limitations? What is the biggest group you can accommodate?
We can accommodate, so we actually do what we call a condensed group session, where we make it not a faster thing, but basically they don't do everything that you do. We have a 30-minute, 45, and 60-minute program. But for the group, can be a little bit less than the 30-minute, because we keep everyone rotating. So everyone gets in, they learn to operate, dig in the dirt, and play basketball. The basketball competition is the biggest thing. People love that. And so they want to compete. So what we'll do with our large group of, say, 30 people, we'll have so many go out at a time, they'll all compete, and then we do brackets. So like whoever won the round can face the next bracket. So companies love that, because now they'll have their one department face the other department, and they create this whole thing. So when a company will call us, I always ask the questions, what does your company look like? What do you want to accomplish? Are they competitive? How do, and on and on and on. And then we kind of customize it to meet their needs too. So it's a wide range.
Interesting.
You say we. Who's the we? How large is your staff?
So right now the staff is 4. But now we are in our off season, so like our off season, obviously the numbers for tourism goes down,
Right.
But then once we start picking up in April, we can have a staff of larger amount, especially for the entertainment side and the corporate. We try to have we like to have what we call a guide per person, or not per person, but per machine. So if we have 3 machines, 4 machines, 5 machines running at one time, we want to have that many people working with you individually. So you get your own guide and you can compete. So we can have a staff sometimes 5, 6 people, running at a time.
What Mark didn't tell you is Mark and his team, they compete with each other, because they want their person in their piece of equipment to win too. So it's actually a little fun competition.
We have our
between
own
Mark and his
machines.
team.
We do keep score. We are doing it for bragging rights. And so we always try to figure out how to pair off with, whoever the contestant's going to be. But we allow the customers, they don't know who the guide is. This is the fun part. We say, you get to pick your machine. So they'll be like, well, I want machine number 1. Okay, well, machine number 1 is run by me, so I'm your guide, and that's how we do it. And so we're very competitive when it comes to the competition. And like I said, we love keeping score at the end of the day.
And for someone who has not very good hand-eye coordination, and I have to work at things, it takes me longer, the guides are really good. They're very patient. They pick up on your speed or not speed. They'll help you. And so I just, if you haven't done it, Jim, I would encourage you, and maybe you and Terrence go out and compete against each other.
Oh, trust me, this is now on the bucket list.
There you go.
I have 3 kids that I think would just enjoy the heck out
They
of
would,
it.
absolutely. Yeah.
So they're all over 8. Actually, they're all older than I really care to imagine. But that's another story. Let's go back to the business side for a minute. What are the lessons learned as you entered this business?
If and sometimes I do talk to new entrepreneurs, I will always say you will face once, maybe 1,000 times where you want to quit. And what you have to realize is at that precise moment is when everyone else quit. I've told myself that a lot of times. Like I hit bumps in the road, I hit walls, I hit all kinds of obstacles, and I said, this is the moment other people have quit. That's why there was not a lot of people doing this business. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, I was going to start a business like this. I've heard of stuff like this. I wanted to do it. They never did it. You're going to hit those points. And to me, you have to realize that find a way to get through it. Use your resources, use your networking, figure out, call people and say, how can I get past this? How can I make this work? And you can find an answer. There's always an answer. There is. And you got to be persistent. And you got to be, as Paul said, you got to be passionate about it. You got to love what you do. I love this business. I mean, I'll get up at 5 in the morning and I'm ready to go. I love it. And you have to have that passion behind it because that's what's going to make the lows not so low, but the highs incredible that you're passionate about it.
I was just speaking to an entrepreneur client on the way in here, and we were talking about passion. Mm-hmm. And passion is a gift and a curse, right?
It is.
Right?
It is.
So the passion keeps you motivated to go forward.
Yeah.
But passion always can prevent you from being flexible.
It can blind you.
It can blind you, yes. And you spoke about some of the changes and being fluid in your business vision.
Right.
And sometimes that passion can block you from wanting to do something different
Right.
and lead you astray. Talk to me about how you stayed fluid but still kept your same passion and didn't feel like you were kind of going off what you originally intended.
Yeah, so I mean, there's many things that we've tried and I don't want to say failed. There's many things we tried and we learned from, that didn't work what we thought was going to work. Like I said at the very beginning, this is all new. I mean, my crew, which is fun, we get in the machine sometimes and make games up, and we're like, oh, this is going to be a great game. And then it's not, and you have to know when to let go of it. Like you have to know that, hey, this was going to be fun. And what I always like work with my staff is we want it easy. We want it fun for the customer. It can't be like fun for us, but the customer is bored to death for 15 minutes sitting in there. So we have to recognize that. We can't create a game where it's going to take 20 minutes to set it up and they're just sitting in the machine waiting. So you have to, come up with those ideas, and then you have to think this through. And there was a lot of things I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a blast. But then once we went through the process and did the trial run, didn't go as fluid as we wanted to, cut the cord, move on. And you have to know when to do that. And you have to take the emotion out of it. There's always an expectation this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And it's not. And you have to remove the emotion and think logically through the whole process and it's okay to throw it against the wall and try things. There's things we tried and customers didn't bite it, and we thought, wow, that was going to be a home run and it wasn't. And so you move on, but can you take that same variation and turn it into something else, and run with that? Sometimes it's not cutting it completely. Sometimes it's just tweaking it a little bit. And okay, well, let's try this a little bit, or let's try this a little bit. My dad used to call that finesse it, and run with that. So
there's a difference between throwing it in the trash and putting it on the shelf.
Right.
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 So
right.
Yes, no, that's good points. Thank you.
So what's next?
So we're always, like I said, for the entertainment side, we're always working on new games. I mean, we're never bored there. We get the machines and we play, and we've come up with some neat Christmas games, and we're going to change them now into future games. So we're always working on new things. We used to do, and we'd love to bring it back, but we have to think it through logically, is car smashes. We used to do car smashes, and we could not keep cars in stock. I mean, people bought those things up like crazy, and it was fantastic. But we had to make it safe, and we had to go through that whole process. And so we've talked about bringing that back at some point. During COVID, we stopped doing it, and we wanted to wait and bring it back. Working on team building. I'm in talks with someone right now about creating a whole unique team building session. So companies for corporate will do what they call team building, but they're usually fun days. You know, they bring them
Right.
out and they have fun. But there's actual, you guys probably know, team building where they learn how to communicate with each other, how to trust each other. Well, we're talking about creating a very unique team building, lesson learned type of program using heavy equipment. And you know, how to communicate, how to someone be in charge. So I'm working with someone on that. We're at the very beginning stages. For the training aspect, we just launched Spanish speaking classes. We feel like the Latino community needs, you know, some training like this. So we decided to bring a Spanish speaking instructor in. And we have, working with Hard Hat Training, they actually have all the programs in Spanish. So,
great.
you know, we can print all that out, the tests, the certificates, everything. And so we're wanting to really get in that community and provide, and like I said, some of the grant money we apply for, we'll give free tuition for anyone in that community too. And then we're looking at other locations, you know, I mean, love to open other locations, you know, throughout Maryland.
Franchise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
would love to do
franchise.
that.
Yeah,
Love to do
absolutely.
that. Yeah, and we've had counties actually reach out to us about the training aspect. We need this training in our county, you know, and so we're looking at different areas there too, which it could be a training area, or it could be what we're doing here, entertainment and training also.
Yeah, I mean, there seems like a lot of white space here for you to capitalize on.
Oh, there is. Yeah.
You said there was 3 when you came into the industry. How many now?
Don't know, because to be honest, I don't see what my competition does. I, a long time ago, made a decision that I'm either going to compete or I'm going to create. And so if I constantly watch my competitors and what they're doing, I feel like I need to do what they're doing to compete with them. I don't know what they do. I don't know what the guy in Vegas does or guy in Minnesota does or what anyone else is doing. All I know is this, is that we pride ourselves in getting what we call 5-star reviews through Google's, which we have about 300 5-star reviews. And we actually, testimonial, we had someone drive from Tennessee, I forget how many miles it was around trip. They told us that someone opened up something similar to us an hour away from them, but when they saw what we did through our website and video, they would rather make the drive from Tennessee to come here as opposed to go an hour to there. So I don't, like I said, whatever competition's out there, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how many other people have started this up like this. And I focus on us, and I focus us being the best on the East Coast. That's what I want.
Great.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you. This has been
Thank you, guys.
very educational, very
Thanks.
informative. Best of luck on the business.
Thank you.
We're anxious to see what comes next.
I can't wait till you guys come out.
It'll be fun. Yeah, this is definitely on the bucket list. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll talk to CEO and President Paul Frey about what's going on at the Chamber. We'll be back after this. There's a lot going on in our city of Hagerstown. There's a lot going on in our county and in our state. A lot of questions in the upcoming year. And to help us talk about those, we will turn to Paul Frey, President and CEO of the Washington County Chamber of Commerce. Paul, you are connected with a lot of businesses, hundreds of businesses in Washington County. I'm sure you get a pulse. Talk to us about what you're hearing from the business community about the upcoming year.
Let's start at the macro level, because we belong to the U.S. Chamber, and the U.S. Chamber has lots of good data, share information. We're also connected to the Maryland Chamber. But at the national level, there's cautious optimism for the new year. They talk about the inflation rates coming down, but it's still higher than it was. Gas prices are coming down, but they're still a bit higher than what they were. We have an election coming up, if you haven't heard about that, here later this year. And so I think once we get that national election, there'll be some more stability. And they're also talking about folks are done spending money. The credit card debt is over $1 trillion, the first time in the history that they're tracking this. So people are holding on to their money for consumers and for businesses. So at the macro level, there's a little bit of concern. Here you mentioned Hagerstown, Washington County, there's a lot of good things happening. We talked to Mark about some of the work he's doing with his business, so there are opportunities. We've talked before about the new baseball stadium opening up, May 3rd, their first home game. Talked about the field house that Hagerstown, the city of Hagerstown is opening up by the end of this year. there's businesses downtown because of the stadium that are opening. So at the national level, there's concern. There's still concern here, but there's cautious optimism about opportunities. And Mark talked about the challenges. Well, if you don't take advantage of the opportunities now, take some risk, it passes you by. And so you can have a good idea or you can have something you want to do. If you don't take the risk and make the investment, a smart investment, you'll lose the opportunity. There's a worker shortage. In Maryland, there's 165,000 job openings, and there are about 55,000 workers out there to fill those. So 3-to-1 jobs to workers.
We have a 1.8% as of November, and I guess the new numbers are coming out Friday. But we have a 1.8% unemployment rate in Maryland. That is just unheard of. That's below structural unemployment. That's just, we got a mess.
And so what you're seeing, businesses are shifting. We've talked about this before on this show, and I've seen you talk about other shows. People working from home, people starting their own businesses. There's been 2 million more new business starts over the last 2 years in the country because people have left their job or want to start their work from home. And so there's risks, but people want to do their own thing. So that's what's fighting some of this employment is people work for themselves and they're not working for someone else.
Yeah.
There's opportunities. We have to fill those spots. What businesses are doing, we've talked about this, is, you read about this all the time. They're automating a lot, whether you go to a quick serve restaurant, a gas station, a lot of retail. Walmart, I think I was there the other day, if there's 50 cash registers, I think I had two cashiers working. Otherwise, it's all self-serve and you have one person going from station to station. They're doing that because of the worker shortage. They're also doing that because of the wage increase. State of Maryland, January 1st went to $15.
But at 1.8% unemployment, I would argue they wouldn't have had to push it to $15 because it's going to be a buyer's market, or a seller's market, I should say.
In a free market economy, it'll dictate what the wages should be. Before they increased to $15, a lot of companies were paying $15, $16. Or more, and they didn't need the government to tell them.
Yeah,
and
my
so,
20-year-old son was making $20+ an hour at FedEx while he was in school, part-time.
Yeah. And what happens, with especially the small businesses, they have to raise their prices. Mark's got employees he has to pay for. He's got insurance he has to pay for. He has equipment he has to rent. All that gets more expensive. And unfortunately, the people we try to help are getting hurt because their discretionary income stays the same.
Well, it does.
They have to pay more.
Because their wages go up, but the prices go up, so there's no net gain there.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, too, where we're at as a state, right? We're also getting to a point of a transient employee market, right, where you can work in California and still live in Maryland.
Absolutely.
And, so we have people employed here, but they're not employed here.
Right.
Right? So you got to deal with that. And also, people can relocate easily, a lot easier than they could 10, 20, 30 years ago when they can pick up and move. I think one of those things on the list that indirectly, that I'm sure you're aware, we've had conversations, is housing as well.
Yes.
Jobs can be here, but if I can't live here and I have to commute 2 or 3 hours to come here, no matter how good the wage is, there's no return on that investment. I want to live, work, and play in the same location because my dollars return back to at a greater rate than having to, commute into another state. And we don't have the housing kind of under wraps. I think that's one of the first priorities. Hopefully, legislative session started this week as well. And I hope that's a top priority that we look at is, great to increase salaries. Sounds great. But if you don't have the infrastructure around it, you deal with some of the negative about it before you can even see a return of the positive.
That is one of the initiatives. I did see today the governor announced there's going to be a focus on affordable housing and define affordable, but more housing. We need more inventory. We need more supply because, as you mentioned, Terrence, folks are moving west from Frederick County, from Montgomery County, and they're selling a house for a big number, and their communities are coming here, paying for over market, and then forcing folks to leave here and either move to West Virginia, move to Pennsylvania. I was in a manufacturer here in Hagerstown. I pulled through a parking lot. I'm thinking about 1/3 of their cars were Maryland plates. Because West Virginia and Pennsylvania, they don't have front tags. And so I'm looking, and about 2/3 of their cars were not from Maryland. And so we're so close to West Virginia, to Pennsylvania, that people can live there, pay a little bit less, commute here, make some good money. And so, you know, to Mark's point, he worked really hard for 5 years to get his business where he is. It's not easy, and if we can figure this out as a community with the housing, I think we're going to be better off than our friends to the north in Pennsylvania and our friends to the south in West Virginia. It's a competition. It may be a friendly competition, but it's a competition for workers. And we've talked about the medical school opening up in a year and a half. We're going to have at full capacity 720 medical students here, that some will live in the residence halls that Meritus is building, but they're going to need a place to live. And so we hope the county and the city are going to continue to work together to solve this problem together.
And what is that problem? I think I know what you're going to say here, but what is that problem?
It comes down to dollars. Who's going to pay for it?
For what?
For, it's not so much the water, but it's the sewer, it's the infrastructure. And it's going to cost anywhere from $100 to $200 million to build out what we need to not only sustain the future growth, but keep us going from here.
Right.
And so we're, you know, with Greater Hagerstown Committee, with the Chamber, some other community partners, we're working to help solve the problem. We know what the problems are, what are the solutions. And it comes down to money. Who's going to pay for it? Whether, you know, the government doesn't pay for it, the taxpayer pays for it.
Yep.
But it's never getting cheaper. And so, to Terrence's point, we think that's the biggest issue we have right now is housing. We have almost 8 million immigrants over the last couple of years that have come here. They need somewhere to live. And so, you know, we have this influx of folks to the country, and then we have folks living here who need a place to live. So it's really pressure all over the country. There's never been a better time in the last 25 years probably in Hagerstown, Washington County for opportunity. All the things we've talked about coming, and I think if we can work as a community to solve the problem, we'll be really far ahead of our neighbors to the north and to the south. And it really, it's an exciting time, and we have to figure out how to take advantage of these opportunities.
I'll throw a question out there, and I know we've talked about this, and it's still probably my pet peeve. The last census we did was in the midst of a pandemic. I think every one of our infrastructures, we're seeing that we're using a lot more than we anticipate. We're using more water. You know, we have more cars on the highway. I still believe that census, we shouldn't wait another 10 years. I think we really have to reevaluate. In 5 years, we should be coming up, because I think those numbers are grossly underestimated.
Yes.
And because of that, we're putting a lot more stress on our infrastructure, not allocating the dollars as well, because we don't have good data. So that's my assumption. I don't know how you may feel about that.
Yep, I agree with you. We're in the middle of, in the county, with a comprehensive plan that's going to look ahead 20 years. And we were using data from 2020 census. Well, that was skewed because of COVID, because of everything else. And so to Terrence's point, those numbers are different just 3.5 years later.
Right.
And so we need to reassess the numbers. You could just see all over the country what's happening with housing and with workers and unemployment, or with employment. And so I think we need to update the data. And again, it's about the money. It's never going to get less expensive to solve the problem. There are ways to do this, you know, and infrastructure like this lasts 30, 40, 50 years. So you can make this investment over 30, 40, 50 years, and it's going to take all of us to help solve that problem.
What do you hear from your members? What are their concerns? What are they looking at in terms of outlook?
The main concern is staffing. They have capacity, they just can't fill it. You know, if someone wants some more from Parker Plastics and they don't have enough help to fill the orders, they can't do it. So they need help to fill the capacity. What I'm hearing, and again, this is a Chamber of Commerce speaking, so this is free market, private sector. We need less government intervention. We have a couple policies that have been passed over the couple of years in Annapolis by the majority party. In our Comptroller Learman, I serve on one of our work groups. You know, they just put out a report, a business report, and the executive summary says we have a lot of issues that we have to resolve that are affecting private sector and the business community. Well, some of what's been happening has been from our General Assembly passing these policies that impact especially small businesses.
Yeah.
Minimum wage was accelerated, increased, as family medical leave insurance. This is the year, everything we've been reading, that they're saying is a time to look at revenue, AKA taxes, because they're in their second year, 4-year term. The first year they're getting their feet on the ground. They don't want to do it the fourth year because it's election year. So this
Right.
gives 2 years for the
People to forget.
For the people to forget.
Yeah.
And so,
And we have short memories.
so I'd like to encourage the citizenry and the business owners to keep track of this. There's ways to let your voice be heard in Annapolis, because they can hear from myself, other chamber executives, but they need to hear from the folks writing the checks. They need to hear from the Mark Stevanuses of the world that are trying to hire people and pay the bills and make a little bit of return on their investment because they're taking risk. So staffing's an issue, government regulation, and some certainty to make the investment.
Mark, how about you? You're a chamber member. Mm-hmm. How do you feel? What is your, would you agree with those that are some of your major challenges?
Absolutely. I mean, staffing to me is the number one. I mean, for me to expand, I can only be as good as how good my staff is and the number of my staff. We wanted to add new things in, new machines and new experiences in, but we're not going to do it unless we have the manpower to do that. So there's an actual holding back of expansion, of doing things if you don't have the staff. And it makes it difficult because it is, as Paul was saying, it is, being able to pay, I don't want to hire staff that they need to go work 2 other jobs, to be able to survive. I want to be able to afford to do that. So it's a rough thing to do of raise the prices, do this, and still think that people are going to come and pay the prices that we can pay the staff to keep expanding, Mm-hmm. So I think staffing is a number one, issue with a lot of businesses.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I know we face it all the time. We have openings all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in your industry.
Yeah, in tech industry, and it's just crazy, and the salaries are just through the roof.
And to pay them, you have to then charge your customers, your clients, to cover those expenses.
Right.
You and the other partners have to make a little bit of a living. You have to pay your bills. You're taking risks that you have to pay back.
Yeah, it is crazy. So let's talk about, there's still this, Terrence will tell us that winter is here.
Winter is here.
Yeah, that's it.
But we hear that winter may not be as hard a winter as what previous winters, recessions have been.
Right.
Number one, we're not in a recession officially. Number two, other than Jamie Dimon, who had a report, did you see that?
I did not.
There was a thing that came out this morning. He was the one that says, yeah, we're gonna see a recession, and it's not going to be good, and $34 trillion in debt is not good,
Yeah.
which I agree with, by the way. But he thinks it's going to be harder than the rest of, or many of the other bankers and economists. So we'll see who's right on that. Do you think the fact that today we have the lowest unemployment rate in the state, or in the country, do you think that gives us a leg up as a potential recession might hit us, because we're already pulled back because we just don't have the staff to fulfill all the orders? Right. So we're used to working not at full capacity. Does that help us at all?
I think what helps our state, especially helps our county, is the diversity of our businesses. Now, our state is dependent a lot on DC, so if we have a shutdown, that's going to be an issue, especially for our retailers who count on that discretionary income.
Consultants, procurement, all that, yes.
So we're heavily government focused. With that said, Washington County, we have such a diverse business sector. We have warehousing, we have distribution, we have retail, we have tourism, we have the nonprofit world. So again, I think because of everything going on here, we have some insulation, but they say the first 6 months is going to be the challenge. And once we can navigate the 6 months, and frankly, once we get through this presidential election, and there's some certainty however it ends up, then people can say, well, here's where we're going to go. So I say cautious optimism. Mark is, I think, a typical business owner. they're not going to make the investment right now that they may have made 2 years ago or 18 months ago with maybe some COVID money, or the citizenry had money to spend. That money's gone, so they're paring back. I think businesses are just being cautious right now.
Well, and you said about $1 trillion in credit card debt. That's got to slow down some spending as well.
Their credit card debt limits are where they are right now, and again, all the COVID money is gone, and a lot of folks, instead of saving their COVID money, spend it, which caused the supply and the supply chain to slow down because people were buying stuff because they had this money in their pocket. So,
right,
yeah, I think this is one of those unique recessions. The numbers may not say it as far as definition, but I think this is going to be a class recession. I believe that those at a certain level, wealth-wise, certain industries, won't see it or feel it at all. But there will be some that will be gutted because of it. Right now, we have the perfect formula going on, right? We just came out of a major trauma to our economy with COVID. We have housing constraints. We have inflation. We have wage issues. We have employment issues. And we just introduced AI that's probably going to take away 10% of the jobs in our market overnight. Like, it's a recipe for disaster if it's not navigated correctly. And I don't think even the state of Maryland, even with a lot of these jobs, I don't think what we also consider into the market is people start a job and quit a job within the same month now. That doesn't really count against our numbers. And we're seeing a lot of turnover, and we talked about it earlier about retention of people in employment that we need to be considerate of. So I think the numbers aren't really telling the story, but you can feel it every day you go buy a gallon of milk or a tank of gas, and I think that's why I believe we're in it, and I don't think it's going to get better.
Class recession? 'Cause I've never heard that before. Class recession. Anirban Basu should be talking to you. That's an interesting look at it, because when you go around to some restaurants, you eat out, those restaurants are full, some of the higher end, but there's other ones that aren't. And so this class level, you're going to have people who have the money. Maybe they work for the federal government, or they're working, they're an executive, been in their job a long time. But then you have the folks who are maybe working 2 jobs and might be living paycheck to paycheck, paying for that milk, paying for that $7 a pound hamburger, if they're getting hamburger or not. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, unfortunately, we are out of time. Our producer is snapping his fingers at me, which means that we're at mission critical state. So we're going to leave it there. Paul, we'll look forward to seeing you back in a couple of months. Hopefully, a lot of our viewers and some of our panelists, Terrence, will come to see you and your business. It really does sound fun.
Can you share your website, at least?
Absolutely. It is heavymetalplayground.com.
All right.